Hello, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at hotspots in the markets for today. Today being February 22nd, 2/22/22 on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. What are we going to be talking about today? Clearly, it's going to be energies and equities. Top of everyone's mind. What's going to happen? What's the fallout going to be from Russia invading Ukraine, crossing the border? We already are seeing economic sanctions come out of Germany, out of the UK. US is coming. There's more to come. It's not going to be pretty. We'll see how this all ends up manifesting itself. But let's take a look at what we've got in the markets, because there is some volatility in the markets. Before we jump into it, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And I mentioned energies. We'll get into equities as well. You can see oil took off over, on the news. Crude punched up near 95 and has since done nothing but kind of retrace all of that. We'll see where the retail trader wants to, what they think once they get into this. Similar-ish in nat gas. Nat gas is actually up. Oil's actually, I think, a little bit down right now on the day. And then we'll take a look at equities. I mean, the knee-jerk reaction for equities. I mean, equities were getting hammered, absolutely hammered overnight, and they have retraced. I mean, they're going to open in the red. Certainly not going to be a pretty open, but not anywhere near what it was, the initial reaction was. So, Brian, let's flip this over. Let's talk about it. Energies and equities. I mean, that's really where the volatility is today, as everyone tries to get their head around what Putin's next move is in a response to
Mhm.
all the sanctions that are coming his way.
Yeah, I mean, thus far, I mean, it's always weird when the kind of quote first day is the second day of the week, and again, because this is more of a global type situation. Really, the only mover that we currently have right now, as far as the currency realm goes, is the UK. Pound dollar down 52, euro pound is up 40. And again, the UK was really the first to kind of jump on it. I'm not going to go through it all, but early morning, Johnson took made some very pointed comments. I guess there's 5 Russian banks they've imposed sanctions upon, and mentioned that this is the first tranche, meaning that this is the first, but there is more sanctions coming. And again, the UK has been extremely aggressive, and more power to them. Thus far, nothing the United States has done has really kind of slowed them down. So at least the UK has taken efforts, as well as Germany also. Up in here, yeah, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Um,
That's
Basically, this is a huge deal,
Yep.
and the big proponents of this is it's basically a way to provide natural gas to Germany from Russia. A lot of proponents to it said that basically this is going to give them too much of control over Europe if they have easier access to be able to pump natural gas in. That Russia will have more power over the EU. Right now, it's not certified. The pipeline is done, but Germany hasn't certified it for usage yet, so it's just basically sitting there empty. Biden has made comments that if he crosses the border, that the pipeline will be shut down permanently. So I don't know. Biden is the anti-pipeline guy, I guess. Any pipeline? No, doesn't matter
But
what it is. So, but right now we haven't heard anything from the United States. What the sanctions are going to be. They said, oh, they're going to announce it later today. We'll see. Right now, interesting enough, the Kremlin is basically saying, "Hey, listen, we're just here. We're doing this to save lives. We're going across into somebody else's country to stop those rebel. And what they say is it's under constant U.S. bombing from the Ukraine. It's like, well, it's the Ukraine's territory. You're not a police. You don't have any police control in somebody else's territory. If those people want to get out, then they should leave. But it's their territory. It's under their borders. It's internationally recognized, and you crossing is a breach, and that's why sanctions are coming down now. Um, but
and
a
Ukraine's going to
humanitarian,
fight their war. I mean, at some point, the Ukrainians will fight back. I mean, they're not just
yeah,
going to cede all that land and say, okay, well, you moved in. No, that's an attack, and they're going to defend themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's funny that we're doing this to save lives and ensure the safety of population under constant provocation from the Ukrainian armed forces. It's like, well, if it's a civil war there and there are rebels, yes. If there was rebels in Russia, I'm pretty sure that you do everything you're in your power to make them disappear. So it's kind of strange, but he says, the possibility of a Biden-Putin talk, says he's open to all contacts, says Russia is still open to diplomacy and has an interest in that. Basically, he is calling, or not calling a bluff, but basically what he's saying is, I have zero respect for Biden. Hey, let's meet. If Biden meets with him, he has lost all respect internationally. He will completely, Putin will do whatever the heck he wants because he knows Biden
The
is.
sanctions are coming.
Yeah,
They're going to sanction him up, and they're going to choke off Russia.
yeah. They have made. In all honesty, Russia has had sanctions in the past before, and Russia has said we don't care about your sanctions. We have other things, and we're trying to become self-stable. And again, remember, he's made the comments about crypto that we're going to allow, we're going to become the new leaders in cryptocurrency because that's where the future is, and that'll help us avoid all the penalties of sanctions. So,
well, they're not
they
going to
know
miss
it's
all
coming.
They are suffering. I mean, right away. I mean, you and I were talking earlier. Their stock market already took over a 10% hit. Their stock market will crash. The ruble's gotten absolutely decimated. The people will get fed up. I mean, eventually you will choke Russia. It's not entirely self-sustained. You cut Russia off from the rest of the world, and the people will suffer. So Russia's not going to get out of this unscathed.
Yeah, no, there'll be something, but again, Iran coming out, getting oil. So I don't think it's. I don't know. Right now, my opinion is they should have taken much more of a stance, and it should have been your tank crosses, our tanks cross. And that's again, walk softly, carry big stick. Right now, we have no stick. The UK is leading right now. So as far as what's going, even Germany has taken more of a stance, and Germany was benefiting from the scenario. We've just taken a very passive approach to it. And again, if we're protecting democracy, protecting lives, it needs to stop
it's
early.
all coming. We're coordinating with the UK. We're coordinating with Germany.
Yeah.
We're coordinating with France. The whole world's coordinating against Russia. I don't think it's just, hey, they've got a plan. I have faith that Schultz and Macron and Biden and Johnson, they're all talking.
Yeah.
They're all talking.
So anyway, as far as news goes today, we're basically waiting for the sanctions and the news from the White House. Consumer confidence, everything else in here is kind of just iffy. Not iffy, but not major market movers. Flash services and PMI is probably decent. They're both supposed to go up a little bit. Consumer confidence down a little bit. Well, 109.9 is still great. A great ratio. Aussie wage in price index going up a little bit. That's fine. We've seen that across the board. New Zealand is supposed to raise their rates tonight as well at 8 p.m. I don't think that'll again. New Zealand was the first of the major nations to do it. Again, they're not considered. They're kind of considered a B tier, but they were the first one to raise interest rates, followed by the UK. So they're raising again, even though it's a small nation. So again, just the world is still continuing to move on. That's something that you can look at. And then again, we're going to kind of break this down later today, but the UK tomorrow morning has their monetary policy reports, and they may be raising. As far as what's moving right now, again, the US trader really hasn't gotten online. We saw for the most part, pretty much everything was running down into the weekend. And then again, we had kind of this kind of basing late last night when all the sanctions and everything were coming out. We've had a little bit more of a rally up again. Everything is still down slightly, and we'll see how that goes. I think a lot of this will depend on the headlines we see today as far as what is the White House really prepared to do with it. The Russell, interestingly enough, is the one that is actually the only one that's green by a little bit. But it doesn't really matter what chart you're looking at. This is the ES. They all had this major big drop, kind of a base, and then a little bit of a pullback. And if you use the pullback from yesterday, you can see that they're all kind of hovering right around that 61.8, and there is areas right there where there is, obviously some sellers. So there's your ES kind of set up right now. NQ also more or less in the same thing. This one on a larger scale from before. There is an area right around the 50, but if you take kind of the same overnight area and bring it down, you can see that there's an area of basing right here, and we've just bounced off of it, and it's also sitting at the 61.8. YM, also kind of the same scenario. If you take the overnight high to low, right around the 61.8, and there also just happens to be a level of basing right there as well. So it's kind of the same setup across the board, regardless of one that you're looking at. There's been obviously a push up in the European session, But now that U.S. traders are coming online, the big question is going to be what's next. There was the overnight gas price in California is now up to $6.21. So we're at the stage now where it's not only inflation that is going to start hurting everything. Now we're at a stage now where the economy is going to start being hurt by the prices of gasoline because transportation is starting to get too high. So we're at that inaction stage.
Yeah.
So
it's yeah. This really is. It's there was a plan to start addressing this, and now you throw in the backdrop of war, and the question is what does that do to the plans?
yeah, I mean, this all carries right over into oil, and oil, although it shows that it's down a little bit, we're still in that, we're still in the the low 90s, and this was an area that we talked about last week, that 94.84 that we had this big launch off of. That's exactly what it bounced off of at 4 o'clock this morning. And again, some of this will be disruption, and some of it has to do with Europe as well. But again, we're seeing two sides of this. One, we have oil and energy disruption happening right now, but we also see inflation, which there's been absolutely nothing done on it. And we've seen ourselves, and again, we talk about what type of sanctions are going to be put on Russia in this whole thing. And Iran, who has current sanctions on there, is like, hey, we got extra oil. And it just shows you it's kind of like, okay, which one is the lesser evil now? So, we went from, 4 years ago from being an energy kind of independent nation to now we are an oil dependent nation. We've gone the complete opposite direction again by canceling our own pipeline. So I think oil is going to be an interesting story today, just because, again, we've seen that pullback. But the reality is, if there's any type of disruptions, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this one right here, and I wanted to throw this fib level out. You can see if price comes back down into that 92 level, that is an area where we do have some basing. It was actually an old level. I'll bring this old level across here. You can see we had a little bit of a base of pullback and then a nice push off of it, as well as it comes down to that 50%. So, if we drop another kind of 80, about 70 cents down with any type of negative news today, that could be an interesting level to take off and kind of push higher. And with everything going on, I mean, I absolutely could see, oil kind of rallying again. Like I said, I think world peace is out at this point. There's obviously that blatant disrespect. Just no fear whatsoever. I'm gonna slowly creep. I mean, even the fact that we have telegraphed what was going to happen and it's happening, it's not deterring whatsoever. So, and again, that just there's a lack of fear there at this point.
It does control the narrative, so that people, they can't.
Yeah.
The misinformation.
And gold has no response to this. Gold is basically flat. Natural gas is moving as well, but again, natural gas is up 2.6, and you can see what it's done. It had a huge gap from last week and has now pulled back, but it is still up 2.46% from its close. So natural gas is obviously getting extremely volatile, and rightfully so. The United States and Russia are the two big natural gas producing countries. So again, it is something that definitely affects Europe, and natural gas is big. But don't worry. The Russian energy minister says we're still going to keep shipping natural gas. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, by the way, be sure to, as you're checking out each one of these levels, I know that we talk a lot about binary options, but take a look at those knockout levels as well, because there are some knockout levels that get kind of interesting. In your if this then that scenarios.
Yeah.
Those a knockout sometimes could be a very effective way to play or trade some of these.
I think the indices this week or knockouts should be pretty decent. Like I said, if we can get some, with some of these pullbacks here, because remember, yes, none of this stuff with Russia right now is great, but at the same time, we're going to hear some FOMC kind of chatter this week as well about what the raises are looking like, how much it could potentially be. And remember, if they try to use this, the Ukrainian situation as an excuse to not raise interest rates as high as it could go, that should send the market flying. Yeah. It'll go straight up because everybody, the market is priced in, 0.5%.
And then
anything less than that would be considered, woo, market's going to go crazy. So
interesting times. Interesting way to start the week on a Tuesday. Remember, Brian is going to be doing a full-blown session. In fact, if I grab this,
we'll have more data. We'll hopefully have the sanctions by then, so we'll have some true levels at that point.
Yeah, what I'm going to do here, if I can grab this quickly, is I can grab the link for today. Here we go. I got it. I should have had that handy. I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. If you haven't registered, back in 3 hours for a full-blown session. Once we've had an opportunity to take a look at what's going on the open. and see how the U.S. retail trader is reacting to some of this news and getting an opportunity to actually get in the markets. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. You got Brian's and my email address in there as well. We are very accessible. Please email us. And really what we're talking about today, this is all that you're going to hear. Equities and energies. How does the world respond to the Russian invasion? And how is that going to impact the markets? There is going to be some volatility. Check your levels, there's when there's volatility, there's opportunity. Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning. If you aren't able to join Brian again in a few hours, everything is recorded. Will be up on the Nadex YouTube channel. If you happen to like what we're doing, again, I want to remind everyone, please drop in a like. Hopefully, we'll catch you again in a few hours. Otherwise, we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Good luck in the markets, everyone.